Welcome back, everybody, to Battle of the Ballads. The year is 2001. I'm joined, as usual, by Joseph and Gregory Dilcox, and our special guest today, Jeff Warden. Jeff, thank you for joining us.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Welcome.
We are on 2001 this year, and I don't know about you guys, but it took me, I think, 2 hours the other day and then another hour today to really pare stuff down. Look what we had. It's just, holy shit, what a year in rock.
I'm definitely still a little long. I try to make it down to my 29 every week. I think I'm probably sitting around 34 this week, so I'm a little bit longer than normal.
I told you guys this in the 90s. You should have been long from the beginning, and then it doesn't feel awkward when you're long.
Well, so
that's your fault.
I'm at a solid 50 right now, and so I'm hoping that you guys mention stuff so I can whittle stuff down. I know that Gregory and I actually share a lot of the same artists for this year, and so hopefully those get mentioned. We did have a lot of new commenters this week, which I noticed, and it's actually interesting because I didn't tag any usual commenters, and then all of a sudden people came, and I found out that there's different offices that listen to us, and everything else waiting for that drop on Wednesday morning. So that's really cool. And so while we share your comments, I'd also like it if you hit that subscribe button, because then you don't have to wait for me to randomly post a video at whatever time YouTube decides to let it upload. You automatically find out it's posted. And viewership has been up huge on all the videos on the Out of the Panel Comics channel lately. Subscribers are up. But viewers for the Battle of the Ballads has definitely gone up, and there are people going back listening to episodes now that they found it. So smash that subscribe button. Leave a comment. Let us know how wrong we are, how right we are, how Dan's always right. And we'll really love it. So definitely do that. And I really, we have a lot of music to cover. So I really want to touch on the comments we had from a lot of first-time commenters and a lot of lifelong commenters. And it was really fun. Some people got the years wrong, and I don't even care because it's just fun that they commented. So kicking it off is Tim Carter, who does No Coast Defenders with Gregory and I. He said there were so many good ones. His personal was Jaded by Aerosmith, which, to be honest, I completely forgot about that song until he mentioned it. But then he also said he can't deny Fallen by Alicia Keys, Hanging by a Moment by Lifehouse, It Wasn't Me, Shaggy. We covered a lot of those in 2000, but I looked at the release dates, and a lot of those were in like November of 2000, things like that. So they spilled easily over into 2001. And that's when they did like the talk show.
Well, I mean, the number one album of 2001 was Hybrid Theory, which we talked about in 99 and 2000.
I was gonna say, well, that's more of a generalized hazy area of when that impacted the world.
I mean, we could probably just give that album, whatever song, just track of the year from 99 to 2005, and we're probably safe. Sherry Nutter Timothy gave us Stained, It's Been a While. Alan Jackson, Where Were You When the World Stops Turning? Said Still Gives Her the Feels. And Crazy Town Butterfly, and she said Drive by Incubus is one of her 17-year-old's favorite songs, which came out on the Make Yourself album a couple years before, because we were on the Morning View album for this one. Corey Mosier Kesserling, who is doing a fantastic job on Twitter with his film reviews. Check him out. First Date from Blink, Fat Lip from Sum 41, The Middle from Jim Eat World, Clint Eastwood from the Gorillas, In the End from Linkin Park, and Miss Jackson from Outkast. I think he stole just any playlist that Jeff and I had ever had at a party. Paul Brenner gave us Party Hard from Andrew WK, and also said Lady Marmalade, because we all know. First time commenter Nicole Cure. She said it was a great year for ladies in music. Independent Women and Survivor from Destiny's Child ranked at the top of her list. Lady Marmalade close second. And I'm going to be honest, everybody commented Lady Marmalade. I forgot it came out around that year. That soundtrack did drop. It just wasn't big until the following year. But that soundtrack was out and it tracked, and the song was kind of everywhere. Megan Otis, Alicia Keys' Fallen, she said the entire album was fire, but the first single delivered Miss Keys to the world, which I firmly agree. Friend of the show, Tony De Romanis, gave us Blurry from Puddle of Mud. He said he'd come back for more, but then he just said actually that whole album. So I'm wondering if he's going to go see them when they're here in Rochester, I believe next month. Ellen Sadler, who will join us in 2004, she gave us Survivor from Destiny's Child, Fallen from Alicia Keys, There You'll Be by Faith Hill, Whenever, Wherever, Shakira, Family Affair from Mary J, I'm Already There from Lone Star, Island in the Sun from Weezer. And she also wanted to point out, and Greg, I don't know if this made your first for your list, but she wanted to point out that Josh Groban's debut album came out the year. I have never met a fan of Josh Groban more than she is a fan of Josh Groban, to the point where when we used to work together, I would just sing it to her as I walked by, just to show her that I knew.
Personally, I left it off because she mentioned I knew we were going to cover it here, but I only like Josh Groban's acting. I'm not a fan of the music, so
his acting is fantastic. Moulin Rouge soundtrack and Lord of the Rings Fellowship of the Ring soundtrack for her as well. I'm wondering if she's going to leave us with a classical song for Song of the Year at some point, and I will be excited about that. Mel Bynum, Christina Lee gave us Short Skirt, Long Jacket from Cake. Kelly Susie, she actually finally got some REM back in her life, so props to her. She said I'll take the rain, but any track worked for there. Christina also said The Strokes Last Night. She wasn't sure if it came out that year, and then we went into a long talk about Scrubs and how it was great on that show and great episode. Love it. Jess Nyateki gave us Fallen from Alicia Keys, Jaded from Aerosmith, and Survivor from Destiny's Child. Jen Pop Benz gave us Chop Suey from System of a Down, I'm a Thug from Trick Daddy, and Clint Eastwood from the Gorillaz. Popped up a couple times. Charlene Ann gave us O-Town Liquid Dreams. Big fan of Ashley Parker Angel over here, so I'll take that. But then she was just kidding. She said Incubus, Wish You Were Here. But she also liked Fallen, Clint Eastwood, and Island in the Sun. And then Austin Thomas Grace closed us out with Fallen from Alicia Keys. He said Songs in A minor and Incubus Morning View had some of my favorite tracks that year, and both albums helped him cope with 9/11, which had a great impact on everybody. So again, for the folks who are just commenting for the first time, I'm going to tag you now. Subscribe. You're going to get all this great content every single week. Thank you for commenting. Thank you for being there. Jeff, you have written many novels for us in the previous comment section. We appreciate it, and we love it. And I don't know about you guys. I think Joseph and I were like chatting back and forth, like, holy shit, what do you hear from music? Like, what do we do here? And so I know you were struggling to pare it down. Joseph, where'd you end up? Actually, we need debuts first from Greg.
Can't forget him.
So it's funny because I was fully ready as I got through like April, and my list was only like 4 tracks and more debuts than tracks. I was going to put you guys on blast for like not being able to pare down, but no, the list is long for this year. It was a slow start in 2001, which makes sense. I think, I mean, malls are still thriving here. Digital sales or digital downloading is helping music sales at this time still. Yeah, so I think it's not too surprising that as the year ramped up, the releases ramped up. But debuts this year, a lot of mediocre boy bands. O-Town was already mentioned. What is that the peak for white guys with dreads? Was O-Town?
Hey, Ashley Parker Angel's a saint.
What a stain on society, though, like embracing the white guy with dreads. I have a good friend who liked O-Town only because he wanted to get dreads. I won't put him on blast, but he would routinely get cornrows, and that was bad enough. So
listen, Adam Durowitz was getting every hot girl in like the late 90s with dreads, and I think that probably kept the trend around for a few years on that guy alone.
Yeah, but I never felt Durowitz's personality was that he had dreadlocks.
That is also true.
That's like a very boy band thing, is your look is your personality. So Durowitz just had dreads because he clearly was living on a beach before they started releasing music. So
that's very true.
One of the, I think my favorite releases of this year, Azor Ray, the band for Jenny Lewis, who at the time wasn't the most famous person in her band, since I think it was her bassist, was on Salute Your Shorts. So, but I Dreamed, so another mediocre boy band. O-Town, Jack Johnson, who may as well be a mediocre boy band. Katy Perry's debut album as Katie Hudson. Yeah. Stephen Malcolm X and the Jinx, his solo album after leaving. Why am I blanking on the name of this band that has been mentioned on the show before? But yeah, Steve Malcolm's solo album. Broken Social Scene, Thrice, The Gorillaz has been mentioned there first. Rise Against, Tattoo, Saint Lunatics, because this was peak, let's get a posse of our friends that can't rap to join us.
Hey, Murphy Lee showed out, man.
Drowning Pool, Alicia Keys has been mentioned. That album's great. Rufio, who really had a moment, and I'm not quite sure why I never got into them, but D12, so all of Eminem's friends who also couldn't rap, so joined his buddy Obi Trice on things. The Shins, Dave Navarro, kind of crazy to think it took him this long to release a solo album, but he was on so many drugs, I don't even know if he knows he released that solo album. Little Romeo, I've mostly avoided EPs, but a couple really good ones came out this year. Regina Spektor's self-released first, which could be getting a release this year. She'd mentioned it was going to come out with a re-release because it's not available on Spotify. It's a collector's item online right now. You can buy it on some of the sites, but it's hard to get. And the Yeah Yeah Yeahs, who I love, their EP. So those are two EPs that I don't normally mention it, but Dream Street, who also had a moment. Avenged Sevenfold, which I always forget it's Avenged and not Avenge. Rilo Kiley, sorry, that's the Jenny Lewis band. Azora Ray is completely different. But NERD, Michelle Branch, Fabulous, The Moldy Peaches, the Ben Folds solo album, which is better than most of the Ben Folds 5 releases, in my opinion.
Yep.
John Mayer, who we mentioned last week, so we probably should have waited a week to talk about how great the new album was.
Couldn't wait, but it's so damn good.
It is good. Bubba Sparks, because that was the thing. T.I., before T.I. became everywhere, there was at one point a few years later where if you flipped through a radio station, you could find T.I. on at any time of the day. Christina Milian, who I've never heard her music, but is a name I know. Brand New, which is a big release. Jamie Lee Lynn Singler had one album and it came out this year. The National, PD Pablo, who had that one track that was everywhere. Andrew WK was mentioned earlier by Brenner. The Future, Mr. Kat Dennings. 07 and director David Lynch released his debut musical album this year as well. Those were some of the ones I went quickly today. I'm not going to lie. I haven't slept much in the last few days. So I spent 45 minutes on both my track list and debuts. But those are some of the ones that really stuck out to me, even if they weren't for the best of reasons.
The Calling, I don't know if you caught them. Their debut was this year as well.
I looked at that, but since I don't care about the Calling, I guess I didn't recognize that was
Fair
their
enough.
debut.
But that one song, Wherever You'll Go, was massive during that time period. And Abandoned Pool, their debut was this year as well.
I completely missed Abandoned Pool. Yeah.
Yeah. Other than that, I think you caught all the ones I caught too.
I think since I'm not a Grey's Anatomy fan, I think of the Calling as a Grey's Anatomy band, so they just kind of blank in my mind.
Nice.
Which Five for Fighting would fall on that as well if it also wasn't used in Scrubs. So, but question for you, Dan. We mentioned Evan and Jared last week. Did you listen to them?
Yes, I absolutely had to.
And did you turn the album off halfway through?
I think 2 tracks. I made it. Other than the one I know, but coincidentally, I did hear the one track we all know. I heard it in tops twice since then on the rotation. So there's still a lot.
Yeah, I made it halfway through, and it's not bad. It's just there's no pizzazz to it. There's nothing that made me stick and want to finish the album.
I'll say it like this. I had it on. I actively listened to about 2 tracks, and then it was just background music. So I didn't hate enough to be like, I'm not listening to this anymore. But definitely not a banger for me.
Now, working on an overnight, it needed to keep me engaged, and it didn't. So I had to switch over. So I went to Against Me, who's going to come up later. So
nice. So Joseph,
yes.
I know you struggled, my friend. Where did you leave off?
I did. So again, I'm a little bit long, and then I cut some off my initial that I thought you guys would cover, things like Missy Elliott, Destiny's Child. I left them off because I figured one of you guys would cover them. So there's a number of things that hurt to cut off. Daft Punk's on that list as well, but so the ones I kept, Creed. I'm like the only person. There's like 3 of us that listen to Creed on a regular basis.
Fucking love Creed.
You can know that. That's okay.
Weathered came out this year, which of course had One Last Breath on it, which is the best one of them to sing. Arms Wide Open might be, but
Eye to Eye is fun too.
Yes. Pink, Don't Let Me Get Me. This was kind of the first Pink song I actually really liked. Andrew WK was mentioned, Party Hard. That's literally what I think of when I think of Andrew WK. So Enrique Iglesias released my 2 favorite songs this year. Escapar, Escape, the one he released both in English and Spanish. The Spanish release is much better. And Héroe, which is Hero in Spanish, also much better than the English release on the same album. Matthew Goodband came in with Annie Pop this year, which I really enjoy. Incubus, Nice to Know You is my choice off of that one.
Great track.
Brand New was mentioned in the debuts. In this one, two of my favorite brand new songs, Jude Law and Semester Abroad, as well as 70 times 7 are both on this album. Both absolute bangers. Tenacious D, sort of, I mean, it was technically their debut, but all of this music, or like a lot of this album was taken from their HBO show.
Yes.
But I remember when we first heard Tribute on the radio, Gregory and I, and we absolutely loved that song. I also threw on Karate because that one's a fun one to sing. This John Mayer release,
cop push-ups or whatever on it too.
It did. The skit from the actual show.
Yes.
This John Mayer release didn't have a whole lot, but I really do like the music behind Neon. I don't know if there are words, but the music always sticks out to me. Remy Zero coming in with Save Me for this year. Mostly just throwing that out there for Smallville. Go back and check out the first 3 seasons. They're great. I've watched all 8 of them. It's tough, but the first 3 seasons are wonderful. Ben Folds, the first solo album, Annie Waits and Rocking the Suburbs are both some of my favorite songs of all time, potentially. Oh man, that's supposed to be in my short runners-up list. My handwriting's terrible. I missed the 2 there. System of a Down, people mentioned already. Toxicity was mentioned, but I also throw out Chop Suey, both of which are a lot of fun. Sugar Cult, one that I think fewer people listen to, but I've always loved. Both Saying Goodbye and Lost in You were on this album.
Lost in You is the one I couldn't think of earlier.
It's wonderful. A Lifetime, Better Than Ezra. I think it's the only one off
Better Than Ezra.
I think it's the only one off that album I can like hear just like out of nowhere. I recognize some other ones, but it's the only one I know. Michelle Branch, Everywhere, wonderful song. Michelle Branch is fantastic. Rilo Kiley, who Gregory mentioned earlier, We'll Never Sleep, God Knows We'll Try. Listen to it if you haven't. Lesser known, but awesome. Cake was mentioned, Short Skirt, Long Jacket. It's the only song anyone ever seemed to know. And when I saw them live, everyone hated the fact that they wouldn't play it till last. And it was awesome. NSYNC Pop. I think this is like the last NSYNC song I like.
I think it's the last NSYNC song they like too.
Probably.
Yeah, pretty sure the band broke up like right after that. They're like, all right, we're done.
I'm even talking
Girlfriend
about
was
that.
on this album too, right?
Which one?
Girlfriend?
Yes.
Yes.
And I think it was the later single.
I couldn't even tell you what that song is, honestly.
Girlfriend and Gone were both on that album.
Yes, Gone was on there too.
Or as I like to call it, the Justin Timberlake show, because that's what it became.
Sure.
Remember, they're just on a hiatus while he does his solo thing that one time.
Yeah.
Oh, nope. Still on that hiatus 18 years later. Crap.
This was the backdoor pilot to the Justin solo career.
Yep.
Indeed.
Yes, absolutely. Those two both have numbers next to them. I'll come back to those. Fell in Love with a Girl, the White Stripes. I actually mostly picked this one because it led to the Joss Stone cover a couple of years later, which is just tremendous. And that'll come up again when we get there. Days of the Week, STP. The Shins was mentioned earlier. My favorite off that one's probably New Slang.
Mine too.
Blink-182. I actually might like this album better than the previous Blink-182 albums. The Rock Show and Roller Coaster are both on this one, both better than I think other Blink-182 stuff. Fallen, Alicia Keys has been mentioned a number of times already. Amazing album. Weezer, Island in the Sun. I love this one because of other associations. Out Cold is one of the greatest movies of all time, and the song is featured heavily in it. Sum 41's debut is this year, as was mentioned. In Too Deep. I think Fat Lip was also on this album.
Was.
Rise Against's debut. This one has one of their heaviest songs they ever wrote, Ever Changing, which is fantastic. Drops of Jupiter, probably the last Train song I like.
their first song to come out, and you're like, it's the last one I like.
No, they had
No, don't forget Meet Virginia. That was the previous album.
Oh, you're right.
yeah,
yes,
they
yeah,
had an
that was
album before this that was much better, and then this
Yes.
is the only song off that album that's any good. And then everything else has been trash. Gorilla's debut, Clint Eastwood has been mentioned. Dave Matthews Band, I threw this one on for Amanda, of course. I'm even wearing her face on my shirt tonight. The Space Between is the only one I recognized off the album, but we have like 2 weeks before we go see them. And then O-Town, Gregory shit on already. All or Nothing. I actually truly love that song. So
That's a banger.
yeah. And I accidentally already listed one of my normally my runners up, which was Annie Waits. Ben Folds is on there. Alien Ant Farm. I absolutely love this album. Pick any of Movies, Death Day, Smooth Criminal, and they'll be on my short list for this year.
I actually went back, revisited Movies, which I hadn't done in a long ass time. I forgot how much I love that freaking song.
It's so good, and both music videos are fun.
Yeah.
The story of that single is one of my favorites since that was the first single off that album, and the video was awesome. It's them in like an old style movie theater.
Mm-hmm.
I think it only got some MTV2 play, never hit MTV. Smooth Criminal cover comes out and it just is everywhere. So they re-release Movies with like a new video, and it became a hit single the second time around. So,
Well, it certainly got a lot of push too from American Pie 2 being on that
yes,
soundtrack.
absolutely.
I mean, that was a gold mine because American Pie 1 soundtrack was so good previously. You could tell American Pie 2 soundtrack, they're like, we need to make this one just as intense. And they basically did. They crushed the second soundtrack too.
Oh,
I mean, hot take, the second American Pie is better than the first one as a movie anyway. So it makes sense the sequel would be better.
and the soundtrack.
I think the second movie stands the test of time better. I think I enjoy it a lot more than I do seeing the first one. So I would agree with you that I think the second movie really is just the more enjoyable start to finish movie.
Sure.
I think American Wedding is probably the best in the franchise, but also I think it's nice that the movies kind of matured and grew up at the same time I did, since it was in high school that the first one came out. So
if you notice, the music did too. Like they had slower songs, stuff like that, like mixed in everything else, where more iconic music, which I love that trajectory for it too. And by the time you get to American Reunion, it's also there too. But it's also like that. All right, we got to throw some of our old stuff back in too, like because that's where people our age are. We're like, we want to relive the old days. It's cool to watch the soundtracks follow the trajectory of the movies.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I think American Wedding was the first time I was introduced to Matt Nathanson, which I don't think you would have heard on the first two soundtracks.
Great cover.
Yeah.
oh wow, you didn't hear Matt Nathanson until then?
Probably not. No.
He played Orlando a lot, so a lot of people when I was living in Orlando were listening to him. So
Ooh, I'm a hipster and lived in Orlando.
there's nothing about
was,
Orlando.
His soul was owned by Disney. They actually forced him to play every day outside the gates of Disney World.
I'm sure. No, but anyway, Smooth Criminal is probably my pick off there. Honestly, it's better than the original, and I don't even think it's all that close. And then my pick for this year was really difficult. Saves the Day released maybe not my favorite album by Saves the Day, but maybe my favorite song. At Your Funeral is amazing. I absolutely love this song. I sing it constantly for no reason. It comes out of nowhere. But
the music video too.
Yeah, it's so good.
Fantastic music video.
But I think just squeaking by or past Saves the Day is Sweetness, Jimmy Eat World. There's a couple of songs off that album that you could probably pick, Hear You Me, The Middle, but for me it's Sweetness. And the music video is amazing too. Something about like the energy coming, like the actual like visual manifestation of the energy of that song coming out of their instruments as they're playing. I always dug the music video as well. So that's my choice for this year. Sweetness, Jimmy Eat World.
You took a track from my favorite band. I love it. So, Jeff, my friend, I'm really curious to see where your list heads.
Sure.
Knowing your musical love here.
Yeah, so obviously preemptively talking to Dan about how I should compile things and such, not knowing that there's much of a format. It's pick 25-ish songs, throw in some of what I like, throw in what I think just had a positive effect, or was just, more of on the objectively of what was most popular and definitive 2001. I got a response. Yeah, it's perfect. I'm like, all right, great. So just go with my gut feeling of whatever I feel like makes sense. All right, nailed it.
Absolutely
I'm obviously gonna go over a few things. Obviously many have been mentioned, but that's, a slight of a bit of confidence for me that I didn't jack things up. It was mentioned, some outside stuff is Stain. We mentioned Stain had Break the Cycle released that year. That was a pretty big album. Obviously this was their second album after Dysfunction and Mud Shovel, which kind of on the radio and stuff. But when Outside became really popular with Aaron Lewis and Fred Durst, even though it was a song that they had performed for a while before Break the Cycle came out, it really picked up. Now Aaron Lewis, while he's still in the music world, that guy's gone a very odd direction, has become hyper outspoken conservative, played Turning Stone Casino for like 7 years on straight. You would just see like they would have one performer and it'd be Aaron Lewis.
He did become a festival. He's a New York State Festival fair performer now at this point.
God bless. Yeah.
But when you release a country album mocking your label, he's tough. He doesn't have really a capability of making friends. We had mentioned Lady Marmalade. That was interesting for anyone big into music. It's cool when 4 artists like collaborate. We got to see Maya, who, other than Ghetto Superstar, who was really talking about Maya. So it's like, hey, Maya's still alive. Hey, the Rugrats soundtrack.
Fair. If you weren't going to be on that or the Wild Thornberries, were you really that big? But like, and what's funny is that Maya, it's like, man, where's Maya been? You like Google her and it's like, oh, she was 22 when this collaboration came out, because she was like 18 when Ghetto Superstar was released. But Lady Marmalade, it was kind of cool because it had the Moulin Rouge thing. Remember, it was very much pushed by that movie. And Moulin Rouge in itself was pretty cool for people who liked music, because a lot of the songs were just hack and thrown together pop songs over the years, if you ever watched Moulin Rouge. So there was a lot of cool things about that. So that was really popular. Clint Eastwood, Gorillaz was obviously in their own thing, being like, oh, so this is a cartoon band. Well, I wonder what they're like live. Oh, they just put up a gigantic screen and show cartoons playing the music. Oh, okay, we're just going to go with the fact that the Gorillaz are cartoons. Okay. So again, Clint Eastwood was a very cool song. You didn't need to know the lyrics. It was a head bobber song that everyone kind of enjoyed if it came on the radio. The coo, I'm happy. And like, it was just very much like a head bobbing song that everyone could get along with. Cake, Short Skirt, Long Jacket is a favorite of a Cape song of mine. Definitely tops it out. Really plays to the mystery of how Cake put their music together, of having vocals have no sign that they were actually listening to the tracks as the background track played, and the vocals just spew out at their own pace. And it sounds like the two would never mesh together, but they made it work with just, whatever signature they were singing in, with like 614 signature or whatever the world it must have been. Going into and actually before, this didn't make my top list, but I did think of it just recently, is Overcome by Live was a big one. We mentioned, in brief, the 9/11 tragedy. The story was that they had their own music video for it. And then when the 9/11 tragedy happened, people started kind of just compiling footage and putting it online to that track. And so Ed Kowalczyk basically found out about it and was like, yeah, let's redo a tribute version of the song. And they made an actual studio version or rather like a well-produced version of the music video that incorporated, stills and videos from that. So that was just, again, how can you deny such a powerful song by an established band, but certainly not known as traditionally as one of their bigger hits.
I remember the first time I heard that, I was driving. The first one I heard that production, I was driving. I just had that moment like, well, shit. And I just parked and I just sat there and like listened. It was the first time I heard it on the radio. I was like, well, holy fuck, what is this?
Yeah, I mean, it's a strong song. It really does. I mean, the piano part is mesmerizing, and Kowalczuk's having that powerful voice when he's not here. Sometimes when he can be a little overbearing with how much he sounds like him. That it worked. He did a very more toned down version of him, but really sounded great and melodic.
Yeah.
Going into the list now, let's go into Power Man 5000 Bombshell came out that year. Again, I am going to incorporate a lot of things that I like, and especially what 17-year-old and 18-year-old Jeff liked. And that was new metal and hype metal was kind of in that world. Bombshell was a really fun song. Again, you didn't need to like, it's not like, oh, it's, classic metal or melodic or aggressive or anything like that. It just feels like like what a generic varsity like team might put on during their warmups. That's what kind of Power Man 5000 brought as the younger brother Spider One of Rob Zombie, who was obviously a little bit bigger in the limelight. But after that, we had mentioned Aerosmith Jaded. Aerosmith obviously really re-peaked. I guess that was probably their fourth career peak when Armageddon came out. And this was a few years later. Jaded did very well, I think, as popularity. It was very simple, not a lot of creativity to it. But again, a catchy song, easy to sing along with. So that made the list. I actually do have Saves the Day next, but I have See You. See You is my personal favorite Saves the Day song. But just like At the Funeral, that whole album, Stay What You Are, was very special. And Joe, I know you are big into the cover world. So I will just drop this, is that there was a ska band called the Holophonics that did an entire cover of Stay What You Are. The entire album they do as ska songs. And it doesn't ruin them. It's an incredible run of redoing an entire album, as tribute. The next song, Let Me Blow Your Mind, Eve with Gwen Stefani.
Yes.
Folks, this was the time where our transition is that Gwen Stefani and her comrades, and no doubt it was like, we're a ska band, take the system. And they're like, okay, we're going to sign a record deal and do, Tragic Kingdom. And then like, all right, we're going to get a little creative. And then like, they just started like kind of tipping over, and all of a sudden they released actually Hey Baby this year as well, I believe.
Yep.
And then you saw Gwen Stefani with Eve, and you're like, oh, that the No Doubt girl. Okay, well, that's interesting. And it's like Gwen Stefani with Moby, and you're like, okay, where's the rest of the guys like? And then it's like Gwen Stefani with Gwen Stefani, and then Gwen Stefani with those girls that she started hanging around with, the four Japanese girls and stuff. And so this was the start of Gwen Stefani just going off on a tangent in life. So I figured it was notoriety. But again, very fun song, easy hip hop song to get. The beat behind it was really catchy. And then something very similar to it next in my list, I have Drowning Pool Bodies.
Yep.
No, not exactly similar, but again, the new metal phase was still alive and well. Personally, I had actually seen Drowning Pool before this single came out. I saw them in Buffalo. They were, by coincidence, they were actually opening up for Boy Hits Car and Finger 11 before Finger 11 kind of went into their squirrely paralyzer phase, when they were more of like kind of like that dark rock. When they were on Creed's original label, it's escaping me the name of that label, but yeah, I mean, Drowning Pool, I met Dave Williams, the original singer, because he actually came out and was talking to us in the line. We didn't realize he was the lead singer of the band. And then, sadly enough, the band continued, but Dave Williams died the next summer, summer of 2002, while on tour with Ozfest.
Yeah.
Died of a heart condition that wasn't diagnosed until until the autopsy. So sadly, because he was actually rated, being this popular, and obviously they were also pushed. They had a collaboration with WWE, which was still hot in 2001. But yeah, Dave Williams, unfortunately, passed away at the age of like 30 the next summer. And we'll roll into another personal favorite. RX Bandits released Progress this year, which is my favorite album by them. And I chose Get. A lot of great albums on that song. Get was really cool because Matt Embry, the vocalist and writer of RX Bandits, man, that guy could write songs, and Progress was their fourth album, and I think he was 23 or 22 at this time. Like, this guy could crush writing. And Get was a really cool song about no time to get what you wanted, it's time to get what you need. And it's about, the desire of people just wanting to always, plan their next big thing without worrying about taking care of themselves now and getting through the day, which I think a lot of people can relate to. Get stays a little bit more aggressive. I went with Pennywise off their album Land of the Free. They had the song, pardon my French, but it's called Fuck Authority. For Pennywise, this is when I was just getting into Pennywise. They were obviously big and around in the 90s, and God bless them, they're still releasing music today. And I finally got to see them live pre-pandemic. It was June of 2019. I got to see them at a festival, and again, they were a punk band that embodied not saying necessarily, overtake the government or everything of that nature. They were more of, don't let someone drag you down by what they're telling you the norm should be. Stand up for yourself, stand up for each other. A lot of their songs are about, friendship, brotherhood, stuff like that. And so that got me into them, was that song. But then I got to find out so much more about their albums, and so I wanted to make sure they're on the list.
I saw them on Warped Tour that year that they dropped that. I saw them on Warped Tour. It was absolutely freaking insane.
Such a good live show. And if you ever get the chance, or if you ever want to, to listeners, go on YouTube and look up Bro Him Live, and you will see what their music does to people. It was written as a tribute to a few of their friends that had passed away. And it was only written by the band when they were like 20 years old, but that's their staple song that they finish every live show with. And it's fantastic. Shaggy, It Wasn't Me. Mr. Bombastic blessed us again, like 5 years after that sweet track with It Wasn't Me. It was really popular, and it's a really awkward song. Obviously it's about a guy confessing to his friend, played by Shaggy. I can't remember the guy who sang on that with him, because I don't think he ever got popular.
Ross.
Was it really Rick Ross?
No, Rick Rock. Sorry.
Oh, Rick Rock. I'm like, oh. So yeah,
they had this trivia question on Big Fat Quiz of the Year, but I think it was Big Fat Quiz of the aughts. And Jonathan Ross, who has a lisp, was on it, and he could not say Rick Rock, and it became kind of a running joke throughout that year.
And now it's permanently etched into your brain incorrectly. All right. Yeah, hilarious, but very awkward song, but quite popular. Jagged Edge, Where to Party At. Again, as you can see, we're going to start naming hip hop songs, and this is when I first really started digging into more hip hop. As going to college in 2001, a lot of these songs remind me of going out to bars and clubs and dancing to a lot of these songs. So that's when I really started kind of going out of my shell and allowing myself to enjoy other genres of music. Next up, we're going to Weezer, Hash Pipe. We had mentioned the Green Album in context earlier. Really a comeback album from Weezer. Pinkerton was definitely kind of out there, so this was a lot more radio friendly, I would say. They released a lot of songs that off of this that were really popular, and now Weezer won't leave us alone, releasing an album like once every 4 months.
Well, it's interesting with this album because it goes one of two ways. Either you're happy to see this Weezer again, or Pinkerton's your favorite album. You think this is where they fell off. But I'm like, no, they always just wrote really fun pop songs.
Yeah, like
except for Pinkerton.
Yeah, I love Pinkerton for what it is, and it's obscure song topics. But right, like that's the thing, is like, well, hold on, Blue Album and this album are both great because they know what they're doing. It's like some of the Beatles songs where it's like, listen, they don't have to be deep and complex. They can be fun. You can just write fun songs, and Rivers Cuomo pulled off. And if you ever watch the videos too, you're just like, another Weezer video. So next up, Janet Jackson, All For You.
Yes.
Another great pop R&B song. Possible Grammy winner, definitely had to have been a Grammy nominee. Probably probably even took some reins at the VMAs. Entertaining dance video, but just again a really catchy song. Really embodied the spirit of and upbeat nature of Janet Jackson. A lot of her songs, again, being able to write a fun song. Incubus Drive. Put this on there most for popularity. Incubus has always been a band I've been back and forth on. I don't deny that their talent's there, but some of their songs just don't hit me. I like some of their heavier stuff, like Megalomaniac was a really cool song. And some of their stuff doesn't stick with me. Drive I was into, but it got old fast for me because it wouldn't get taken off the radio. But nonetheless, it was a big song in 2001. Blink-182, Rock Show. How can you deny anything off? Take off your pants, jacket. They followed up Enema of the State as best as they could. I mean, great album to follow that up when you had set the bar unreasonably high for yourself. Because they obviously had songs like First Date, Every Time I Look for You, but then also less radio friendly songs like Happy Holidays, You Bastards. But keeping the spirit of Blink-182 alive. Blue Cantrell, Hit 'em Up Style.
Hit 'em up style.
Yes, and I will go in tandem with that is Jennifer Lopez and Ja Rule with I'm Real. Both of those great club songs, fun dance songs. Jennifer Lopez, I think that was on her album, I believe.
It was on both.
Featuring Ja Rule. Was it on both?
It was the special bonus track on her album because Ja's song and it did so well that they put it on the re-release of that album for her.
Interesting.
Wow. Dibs. No, I call dibs. Fine.
Well,
we'll
and
share.
there's two versions. Her album version is slightly different than the one on his, so one is considered a remix. But yeah, no, it is on both albums.
Oh,
So
that's pretty cool, actually.
Hers didn't have the "What's my motherfucking name" part. Hers was more of a J-Lo.
Well, that's probably for the best. That's for the best.
Yes. And clearly we dove too deep into the J-Lo depths.
We are going into my top 10. I will let Joe had handled this. Alien Ant Farm, Smooth Criminal. No denying it. Fantastic cover. Then another cover, Smash Mouth, I'm a Believer. Now, my theory in this is that, again, piloted, pushed really hard by Shrek. Shrek was a top movie that year. Fun fact is obviously I'm a Believer. We all know that it was a cover originally released by the Monkees in 66. I looked it up. It was December 31st, 1966, and it stayed atop the number one. It was the number one song for 7 weeks in a row in 1967. So an incredible song that Smash Mouth crushed. They did it justice. They did exactly what a cover is supposed to do. Make it your own, but do the original justice. And I don't think anyone can deny enjoying that song when it came on the radio. Again, just really likable. Train, Drops of Jupiter. We already went over it. Nelly, Ride With Me. A fantastic Nelly track. Really started, catapulting him off with that and EI. So I think Ride With Me would be right up there. We did mention Sugar Call. I have Bouncing Off the Walls next.
Yes.
Really going with that pop punk and movie classic. I believe that was on Van Wilder, is where that was. I'm almost certain that was the DVD menu of Van Wilder. So it was popular.
It was indeed the DVD menu.
Yep. Because I think I felt, because that was back when DVDs were like, you know what, we're going to give you a 20-second clip. And if you leave your TV on and fall asleep, it'll play forever in your dreams. And I'm Bouncing Off the Wall again would just be on loop when I would fall asleep watching Van Wilder. I did get a chance to see Sugar Call open up for Green Day and Newfound Glory when Green Day was on their American Idiot tour in 2005, and everyone loved it. Sugar Call can get a great reaction out of the crowd, and they have a lot of good hits. Next is Usher with You Remind Me, his first Grammy he won.
Which is crazy because he should have won it for Martin Slow.
Yeah, I mean, it's impressive. I think he was probably, again, estimating here is probably somewhere in the age of like 22, 23 when this song came out. Again, great production, very cool backing track, but it also really showcased Usher's great vocals that would, obviously just continue his ability to be credible and not just like, the next kid transition to an adult artist very well. System of a Down, Chop Suey. Again, metal has now officially, and System of a Down specifically, really jumped into the limelight. I think more than they ever could have assumed they were going to. I mean, guys, you have 2001 gave us a tour, the Pledge of Allegiance tour, which was System of the Down and Slipknot. And you had tons of non-metal fans going to that because listen, like that was really popular at the time. It was okay to like Slipknot and System of a Down.
Oh yeah.
And I think Rammstein actually opened up for them on the Pledge of Allegiance tour, because why not get an industrial German metal band to jump on and really light the stage on fire, both figuratively and literally. I have NSYNC Pop as my second runner up. We've discussed the relevance of that. My next one, Jimmy Eat World, The Middle. Joe had mentioned Sweetness. Again, Bleed American, fantastic album. I'm not a huge Jimmy Eat World fan, but again, I don't know how you don't like Bleed American if you just like good, quality, fun rock and roll.
Name of that album was changed.
It was.
It was changed from Bleed America to Jimmy Eat World.
Yeah,
it was
after 9/11 happened.
No
their release
way.
date. Their release date was
Yeah.
also supposed to
I
be
didn't know
September
that.
11th, and so that was just poor timing all around.
They changed the first the title track.
Yeah.
They changed the name from Bleed America as well. The song was renamed afterward.
I think it's changed back. Like on Spotify, they're
It
both
is.
listed as Bleed American.
Oh, okay.
We'll get to it in a minute, but my vinyl copy is called Bleed American 2, and it definitely was not released.
Wow.
Yeah.
2001,
They
so
I was
They-
never aware of that.
They
It was one
changed
of
it
those
all because of a
changes-
very unfortunate release date.
Uh-huh.
yeah. But then, like upon re-release, it went back to Bleed American because
Right.
Interesting. I didn't know it went back again. I only knew it was originally changed.
It was-
Risky to change it, riskier to send it back. They're like,
Yeah.
no, is it cool now? Is it cool? We're cool. I'm just gonna.
Yes.
But yeah, I mean, Authority Song is probably my favorite song off of it. But The Middle and Sweetness were both, I mean, what a 1-2 punch for that band that year. And my number one song is Sum 41, Fat Lip. That album, All Killer No Filler, was amazing. Pop punk was already embraced and accepted because of bands like Blink-182. But they came along, and I remember seeing that music video when I was a senior in high school on MTV at like 1 a.m, and talk about, again, an equally as energetic and fun music video, having everyone sing like they're inspired by the Beastie Boys, finishing sentences and going back and forth through all the members, and being a band from Canada, so really like they didn't tour around here, like they just really exploded onto the scene. But I mean, that whole album has such quality summer tunes that you just throw on the CD, you let it play out, and talk about a band that's reinvented themselves. I mean, not on the extent of like brand new, but that band released, Does This Look Infected was a little bit heavier, and Chuck, the album after that, got a little bit even more like metal influence, where you could easily spot influences by like Metallica and stuff. That band really jumped in with a very creative song. Something that we don't normally see was the mix again of the pop punk and then the kind of vocal styles of like the Beastie Boys telling silly stories about them growing up, and then ran with it and just stayed around and kept reinventing themselves. So a personal favorite, but also I think a big proponent of what made 2001 so great as far as versatility goes.
You know what's weird is I remember 17-year-old me sitting there bopping that album, being like, "Wow, this feels like a throwback." And who am I to say what a throwback is at that time? But it felt like all the music that I had enjoyed in my entire life up until then was like on this. You mentioned the Beastie Boys and the pop stuff. It was like this is just a culmination of everything as I start to apply for colleges and all that shit, like rallies, parties, and it just felt like, oh, this is where my life is now, and it's everything I've experienced thus far. That whole
Man,
album
you guys
was
are
just-
old.
We are old.
So old.
I think I turned 12
All right.
in 2001.
Thanks, Joe. Fuck yourself, young. So
My back hurts hearing that.
so we got some 41 from our buddy Jeff here. Gregory, where are you at, my friend? I'm hoping that you're going to cross a bunch off my list because I know where we intersect on many of these.
I left some off that I knew for sure you were going to mention, or I thought for sure you were going to mention.
Skeletor, hands in the air.
I just the theme of this week for me is like how much I screwed up. So American Hi-Fi's debut album was this year, and it's something I completely forgot to mention. Like flavor of the week I have on my list, but I forgot that was the debut album. The drummer Stacey Jones from that, he was part of Letters to Cleo and Veruca Salt, so he'd been around for forever. Flavor of the week was just everywhere, I think, from 2001 to like 2003, so basically
and then again in like 2010, 2013.
Yeah,
every teen comedy in those years, it ended up on those soundtracks.
Show the hot girl walking by and play that for 5 seconds.
Yeah. The album as a whole was really good, but flavor of the week was just undeniable. Everyone has mentioned Jimmy Eat World, and that was another screw up. It is one I own on vinyl, as I just referenced, but I forgot to grab it, mostly because Low released my favorite album, which is something was one of the first records I bought. But in one of those times when I was moving in a new place or had a roommate disappear without paying rent or something, it's one of the records I sold, knowing it's not as widely available and I could get more money for it. So that threw me off today when I couldn't find Low, and that kind of threw off my record searching. But a couple that weren't mentioned on there, Hear You Me, If You Don't, which is in contention for best 2-track.
Did we lose Dan or
week.
Just his video?
I'm here.
Okay, great.
He likes to do that. Tell us we might drop out and then lose his video. So this was the first album Spoon released on Merge Records, and Merge, of course, like when it comes to indie bands, is undeniable. But Everything Hits at Once is my favorite track off this album, and it's a track everyone has heard because it's another soundtrack. TVs and movies, like it's all over the place. You don't know it by name, but you've definitely heard it, which is true of a number of Spoon tracks.
I left it off knowing you'd get to Spoon.
Yeah. The Faint released Dance Macabre, one of my favorite albums. This is the deluxe, which is really fun because it's got remixes and stuff on it too. But Agenda Suicide and Glass Dance, which are the first and second tracks on the album, but that is definitely in contention for best 2 tracks, but those are great. Her Space Holiday, Perfect on Paper, is just a lovely track. I love Her Space Holiday. It's sad they didn't blow up. J-Lo we'd mentioned, but Love Don't Cost a Thing and I'm Real. That is a great 2-track. I think it's tracks 3 and 4 off that album. But I mentioned Low. Dinosaur Act is my favorite off that album. Atmosphere released the Lucy Ford EPs, which is a collection of the 2 first Atmosphere EPs. They're All Gonna Laugh at You. Atmosphere gets better, I think, with the first album, but that's a great track. We've mentioned Alien Ant Farm a lot, Movies, and Death Day. Death Day is my favorite track, I think. But maybe it's because when I was 15 and I started listening to Alien Ant Farm, that was the one that was like, yeah, that's the cool one. But no, it's a great track regardless. Peaches and Cream 112. What a fucking banger. We've mentioned Gorillaz a lot. This was, I mean, how insane is it that the guy from Blur then decided to do animated Gorillaz and incorporate a lot of hip hop and honestly his solo stuff in the last few years incorporates a lot of like hip hop textures and tones too. So I guess it's not too surprising that he went that way. But Starshine Rock the House featuring Del the Funky Homo Sapien, who is also like the one who's rapping on Clint Eastwood. So we need to shout him out that Del is just a great for spots. But yeah, the album is just so good. Colin Hay.
There it is.
Beautiful World and Maggie were both on this album. Destiny's Child, Survivor, and Bootylicious. Once again, those are back-to-back tracks on album. This year is filled with just great back-to-back tracks. So I didn't really list them. Get Your Freak On, which is sometimes my favorite Missy track. Sometimes it's not, but Get Your Freak On is just brilliant. This album is really good as well. Lot of features on this. A lot of Red Band, a lot of Method Man.
It's got 1 Minute Man.
Yeah.
Yes, it does. Twice.
Yes, because I think the first one is it Busta, and then there's a remix with Jay-Z, or is it Method Man and Jay-Z? But yeah, so like she gets a different rapper on the remix because she's Missy and she's brilliant. It's insane she's had such a good rap career, because before she was rapping, she was a producer.
Yeah.
And she could have just had a career as a producer, much like her friend Timberland. And Timberland and Magoo released an album this year. It's not that good, but they did do that.
Timberland albums just never are that good.
Was Fat Man Scoop involved? Was Fat Man Scoop involved? He should be involved.
He was involved.
Yes.
Weezer, Hashpipe Island Sun, once again, back-to-back tracks. I think that's 3 and 4 on that album too, or 4 and 5, but also both the singles. Redman, Let's Get Dirty. Like this, not my favorite Redman release, but what a great track. Rufus Wainwright, Cigarettes and Chocolate Milk, which sounds like an awful pairing, but it's a beautiful song. I think that opens the album. Well, we've mentioned Bodies with Drowning Pool. What a great track. I honestly, Jeff mentioned the partnership with WWE. Not only was it all over WD there, but they still use that every like couple years as like the anthem to a pay-per-view. And they still do other like Drowning Pool songs, but they keep going back to Bodies. And there's a good reason. Amber 311.
Yes.
Fallen, Alicia Keys. When It's Over is my favorite Sugar Ray track, and that was this year. We've mentioned Sugar Cult a lot, and I always think of Sugar Cult as being the pop punk version of Sugar Ray. So I have Bouncing Off the Walls listed right after that. White Blood Cells came out this year. Joe mentioned like Fell in Love with a Girl. I had a hard time picking anything off this album because I just love this album back to back. There's songs that are better than others, but it just flows. It's a great album. So I just have the album listed because Fell in Love with a Girl might be the best track off the album.
Great music video as well.
Yeah, but the Joss Stone version with Questlove on the drums.
So good.
Like poor Meg White, like not only is she overshadowed by her husband / brother or whatever
whatever their dynamic is.
But then on a cover of probably their biggest single, she has to have Questlove drumming down.
I get no notoriety.
Like, don't you have enough Questlove? You've got to take Meg White's track. Like, the Saves This Day album. I almost want to say it's my favorite album, but I've also said that about the last Saves the Day album. They're what great back-to-back releases from Saves the Day. But Cars and Calories, Certain Strategy, and Jukebox Breakdown, those 3 are in a row. Like that's a 3-track like killer listing. So for the first time, that's my 3-track killer listing. But good on Saves the Day. That guy doesn't age. I saw him a couple years ago. He looks exactly like he did in the late 90s.
So random story about Gregory knows this one, but when Amanda and I were talking about getting married about a year ago, he was doing an Omaze where he would, if you won this Omaze drawing, he would come and perform a private show. And so I had put it out there that anyone who wanted to donate to this cause and win a private show, Amanda and I would then get married and he could be our wedding singer.
Nice.
At least 3 people put in money to try to get that to happen. So,
which I wanted that to happen for you. Cake, Short Skirt, Long Jacket's been mentioned a lot. Definitely the best song off the album. May have been like in the 2000s, definitely their biggest song, but Going the Distance is like the track everyone knows. Sold the most as a single. It's got the most listens on Spotify. Not that is a thing for music lovers necessarily, but like you can tell what's the most popular that way.
Because I Will Survive is clearly the best Cake song.
Yes.
At the end of the album.
Last Night, The Strokes, like what a brilliant track that was. That album's really great as a whole, but like that stands out like heads above the rest. Science vs. Romance, Rilo Kiley, beautiful track. Also the album opener. NERD, aka the Neptunes.
Yes.
Lap Dance and Rockstar were everywhere as they should have been. The Blueprint, my favorite Jay-Z album.
Oh, me too.
Had to try and pick some tracks off it, but I went Girls, 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 Song Cry, and Renegade featuring Eminem, and Eminem also produced that.
Yes.
So
pretty much you just left off Izzo.
Yes. I mean, there's honestly, I think you could list anything off that album and you're not wrong. Ben Folds, we've mentioned, Still Fighting It, Rocking the Suburbs, and Gone are just, this is another one I thought about just listening to the whole album, but I already had done that with the White Stripes. So ODB, Shimmy Shimmy Ya, and the fantasy remix for Mariah Carey was on this one, which I think is another case it appears on one of her albums as well. It might be a collection, but so what a great track to play at the jukebox in the bar. Super Chunk, Florida's on Fire. So 20 years later, and they're still correct, Florida's on fire.
This is pre-Florida Man.
Oh God. He drops the computer mic.
Eels had a great release. Souljacker, I could have picked a couple of tracks off this one as well, including the title track. But Fresh Feelings is my favorite off that album, and it's another like soundtrack. Like Eels, I feel like there's one track off every Eels album that hits a lot of soundtracks. Death Cab for Cutie, I Was a Kaleidoscope, and A Movie Script Ending are both great tracks off that. Lit had an album this year. It wasn't as good as the previous one, but Lipstick and Bruises and Sunny Weather are definitely two bangers I love. Thursday, Understanding.
Is that the Atomic album?
Yes.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, Understanding and A Crash from Thursday was this year. What a great track. When I lived in Orlando, there was a House of Blues bill. It was Ted Leo and the Pharmacists and Against Me with Thursday opening for them.
Nice.
But House of Blues took it off their website, so I just assumed the show was canceled. It was under 30 people at that show, and all three bands played like it was a full crowd, because those are three bands who love to play live, and that would have been a hell of a show to go to. I'm kind of sad I wasn't. Friday Night Fever is my favorite Silver Jews track, and that came out this year. Joe mentioned Creed. We love Creed. One Last Breath and My Sacrifice. Against Me released 3 EPs this year. Their acoustics EP was the best of them. Reinventing Axl Rose and those Anarcho Punks Are Mysterious. I listed those in reverse order the way they appear on the EP, but that would be my favorite back-to-back of the year was on that EP. Bright Eyes released an EP, but I think it was a Japanese only EP. So thank you for streaming and illegal downloading, because I love these. Oh, You Are the Roots That Sleep Beneath My Feet and Hold the Earth in Place is just a brilliant track. And No Lies, Just Love, another brilliant early Bright Eyes track. For my top 5, Clint Eastwood, Gorillaz, not my favorite Gorillaz track off that album, but undeniable. It's kind of unfortunate that it's just the Gorillaz, because that's the project. So when you're featured on a Gorillaz track, most of the time you're not listed because you're just a member of the Gorillaz. Because I think not that he didn't have a good career, he was on worked with a lot of good artists, but how much better is Del the fucking Homo Sapiens career if like it's Gorillaz featuring Del?
Yes.
Still Not a Player, Big Pun and Fat Joe. The Incubus remix is great too, but Still Not a Player. Waiting for My Real Life to Begin off that Colin Hay album.
Yep.
I cry basically every time I hear this track, especially the cover version at the end of an episode of Scrubs by a patient who's dying. At Your Funeral saves the day. We've mentioned it. The video, like the song just gets me as well. And then my song of the year, and I will go to war when we try and get the song of the decade for this one, but California by Rufus Wainwright. We've mentioned him a couple times in relations to a couple of great covers he's done.
Yeah.
I love Rufus Wainwright. What a weird career. I mean, his father, famous singer-songwriter who wrote a song about him breastfeeding. His mother and aunt were at like a girl pop group in the 60s. His sister is a brilliant artist in herself. And he went through a phase where he was just doing whole covers of Judy Garland shows. Like, what a flex. You're like, oh, Judy Garland, you sold out Madison Square Garden 2 nights in a row. I'm going to do the same thing and do it track for track, and it's going to be brilliant. I love Rufus Wainwright. California is the first track of his I heard, and it's still, I think, the one that gets me. I know his voice isn't for everyone, but I think he's brilliant. I think he was doing early quarantine, he was doing a track a day in his bathrobe. So he's at home just doing a track on his Facebook a day. He seems like a genuinely good guy. His husband seems like a genuinely good guy too. I love Rufus Wainwright, and I kind of am in love with his sister too. So we'll get to her when that album comes out.
Nice.
Stay tuned.
That one actually surprised me. I was thinking it was going to be Colin Hay, and I say that because every time I hear Colin Hay, I feel like we were together listening to it because you're the only other Colin Hay fan I know. So
it did not surprise me at all. I actually would have put money on either Rufus Wainwright or Saves the Day as your pick this year. So I'm not surprised at all.
And it was tough because you guys know I just started doing the top 5, and I would usually like try and pick as I go. But yeah, those 3, any of them could have been it. And honestly, like Everything Hits at Once from Spoon could have been it as well, because I think that's one of the better songs of this album, but it's in the bottom half of my favorite Spoon tracks. So it felt weird to make a song of the year when I've got 2 tracks that might be my favorite from an artist in the same year. So
I went long this time. And sadly, many of mine were not crossed off. So please endure with me as I go through the jumble that is Dan this week. A Woman's Worth from Alicia Keys. Love the whole album. Ariel's Toxicity from System of a Down. POD, Alive, Boom, and Youth of the Nation. They burst on the scene out of nowhere from the Christian rock radio scene somehow.
Just missed my cut, mostly because when I saw them live, he spent the entire time talking about how they're the greatest band there. I'm like, man, you're at a 3-day festival. You're in the middle of the afternoon.
Right.
Like, you're clearly not.
There's at least one person. The organizer clearly doesn't have the same views that you do.
Hey,
you know what?
They were much music superstars.
You know, the year I went to Bonnaroo, though, like all the bands I thought were the best were in the middle of the afternoon. So
that's fair, but
including She and Him, which
nice.
Zoe Deschanel, what a beautiful voice and a terrible actress.
So I've got Always on Time, Living It Up from Ja Rule. Please Don't Do Another Fire Fest. Perfect Memory from Remy Zero. Breaking Rules and Fred Astaire from Lucky Boys Confusion. Actually 2 of my favorite tracks of all time. One of my favorite bands who came and went again, and came and went again.
I was just they came and went, and then they're back, and they were gone again.
Yes. If you don't know those tracks, I highly suggest it. It's good for anybody. Area Codes and Move from Ludacris. Because I Got High from Afro Man. My Stupid Mouth, Why Georgia, Your Body's a Wonderland, No Such Thing from John Mayer. Room for Squares really opened me up to a lot of different musical avenues. John Mayer, is douchey as he is, such a great songwriter, such a great guitar player. We talked about it last week. We're going to talk about it every year at this point because Mayer is one of my favorite musicians, one of my least favorite people. Breakdown from Tantric, such an excellent album. Bubble Toes and Flake from Jack Johnson. Bands on the Run brought us Flicker Stick. They did Coke and Got a Feeling off of one of my favorite fucking albums. Flicker Stick was slept on, and for very good reason. They didn't get any exposure after they were on Bands on the Run, but holy shit, those songs are amazing. They're on all my playlists. Click Click Boom and Your Disease from Saliva. Differences from Genuine, which I'm surprised nobody said, because that has been so many people's wedding songs over the years from Genuine there. Drowning from Backstreet Boys. I know it wasn't for everybody, but I love that damn song. I don't care if the Backstreet Men grew up. Epiphany from Stained is actually my favorite Stained song that they ever released, which came out that year. I absolutely adore that song. I can't stand Aaron Lewis. His voice drives me nuts, but that song is amazing. Goodbye to You from Michelle Branch. You Got It Bad and You Don't Have to Call from Usher. Get the Party Started, Just Like a Pill from Pink. Gotta Get Through This from Daniel Bedingfield, which a lot of people took that as like a really poppy song, but on that album, he actually had an acoustic version, which just blew my mind. Such an incredible version that totally changed the entire song. Heaven is a Half Pipe from OPM. I can't leave that off my list. That just brought so many circles together. I remember at that age, maybe at 12, Joe, it was a little different for you, but I remember like my circle coming together with this one song of like the hip hop, the rock, the punk, everybody came together over this song.
The album in general, if you go back and listen to it, I mean, it's actually a really solid album. Menace to Sobriety was actually a very solid album from start to finish. It's chintzy. If you know like Ballyhoo, it's like surfer rock / rap, but it's actually a really fun album to listen to.
Oh, I love it. I love it so much. I revisit it at least once a month. Underneath it all from No Doubt, which was really Gwen saying deuces to everybody because she was about to do her own thing. And in hindsight, you'll see it now, and she's just like, the band has no love for me. Me and Tony are done. Fuck this whole path. I'm changing labels. I'm doing my own thing. And she just bounced.
That was definitely the best track off Rocksteady and felt like it was from a different album.
It felt like it was from a totally different songwriter. And it's because she got all the writing credits for that. She didn't share it with the band on that one track, which is interesting.
It's funny because No Doubt just slowly became more and more electronics and stopped sounding like a band. They took like the Maroon 5 route where it's like Maroon 5. Oh, you mean Adam Levine and his 5 or whatever the heck you want to call Maroon 5 now? Like they went from a band to just Adam Levine.
Well,
I mean, my favorite band like that is Barry Jive and the Uptown 5.
Well, the second that No Doubt, a band of already so many people brought in features, that's really cars. They're done. You could tell the rating was on the wall there. I'm gonna miss her, the fishing song from Brad Paisley. I say this because it was one of the very few first country songs I was there like, oh, I can dig this. And I still kind of dig it to this day. Not a Girl, Not Yet a Woman. I'm a Slave for You from Britney. Ain't It Funny from J-Lo. Love that track. So when it comes to this Incubus album, Mexico was my favorite song off that album. We all know Jimmy Eat World had a big album this year, so did Incubus with Morning View, both my two favorite bands. Mexico is my favorite track off there, but I don't think anybody even listens to that song when they listen to the album. But they had Just a Phase, Circles, Warning. Those weren't mentioned. Purple Pills from D12. What a showcase of garbage that somehow sounded good. Just
the video was fun. I can say that much for it.
Yeah, some of the worst fucking rhyme schemes, lyrics, everything. Somehow it just worked. Raise Up from PD Pablo. Put Your One Pant Leg Up there. Rock the Boat from Aaliyah. I always just say what could have been. That was just such a great track there. Seeing Red and Rest of My Life from Unwritten Law. Love that album. Rest of My Life is one of my favorite songs, and it's so simple. Sing from Travis, that started my deep dive into more indie bands. At that time, that whole album was just phenomenal. Best Deceptions and Brilliant Dance from Dashboard. My top 5 bands right there, so I gotta show them some love, or Chris at least. Blower's Daughter from Damien Rice, just such a powerful song, and I'm a big Damien Rice fan, so just great track there. Hear You Me is
the Damien Rice. That was the European release, right? Because that was before. I think 2 years to the US, which is fun. Like the Nickelback album this year is considered their debut according to Wikipedia because it's their US debut. So
instead of the Canadian version, yes.
Yeah.
But yeah, the Damien Rice album, it trended on like the college stations, but it didn't play like on release. Like you couldn't get the single in America, but it was on the college stations. Because I remember I heard it on 89.1 the Brockport College station when I was in high school, and I was hooked. Hear You Me is my favorite Jimmy World song off that album. The People That We Love from Bush. What Would You Do from City High? How can we not just show that song some love for whatever?
So wait, I was like, how did I miss Unwritten Law? It's because I thought this was 2002, and what I found was 2002. So they're gonna hear about Unwritten Law again next year too.
I saw it as 2002 as well. So
I believe it was a November release date.
I think that was
January of 2002.
The single was November, I thought.
Yes. So I go when the song hit my ear as opposed to the album because I was making mixtape CDs. I had a lot of parties to attend to in these countries.
And we do the album, which is also how I didn't have Blower's Daughter because I didn't hear it until I think 2003 when the album was released in the US. So,
but then I have Wherever You Will Go and Adrian from The Calling. Just those were everywhere. I had to be on there. So then I get down to my final. I had Angel's Son from Seven Dust, which I actually had the privilege of seeing Seven Dust the day after Lejean's brother died, and he did this song live for the first time ever. He was in tears on the stage, just sobbing. And seeing that at a metal show is just such an experience. But that song just resonates with me so much. Austin from Blake Shelton, it's just it put him on the map, but it's also just such a fun karaoke song, and it's one of the few country songs I know that if it comes on in a group, everybody knows it.
I don't know it.
I have no idea how you don't know it, but I want to live under that.
I heard Blake Shelton, and I was like, I know that name, but I don't recognize that song at all.
Renegade from Jay-Z and Eminem. Fallen, Alicia Keys, No More Drama from Mary J, The Sweetness from Jimmy Eat World, One Mic from Nas, Morning from Tantric, which is my favorite Tantric song, and then Overcome from Live. Those are my tops. I ended up with Fallen from Alicia Keys, just because that was just holy fuck of a song, to be quite honest. It didn't not only introduce this to her, but it had this piano playing woman breaking through to so many different markets and areas. It was on college radio, it was on every video channel before VH1 became just VH1. It was on TV, it was VH1. She wrote that whole album. The tracks are real. Something just so powerful about it. So that was my song of the year, is Fallen from Alicia Keys. And I think that we had quite an eclectic take on this, and I actually really like it. And I like the playlist that could come of everything that we came up with for this year.
I'm teleworking tomorrow, so I can make that playlist.
That's amazing, because it's going to be a banger for sure. I thought this year was difficult for me, but then when I came to that song, I was just like, that just naturally, that was the song for me. As much as I would have loved it to be Fred Astaire, because I think that's my favorite song on the entire list, that wouldn't have made sense for the world. So I just, I think Fallen Alicia Keys.
It's always interesting. I think sometimes all you need is a beautiful voice and a simple piano, because we'll get into it in a couple of years. Like, John Legend has so much production on a lot of his albums, but he's best when it's just him at a piano singing. And I think that's Alicia Keys. So like, if you can play the piano and you have a lovely singing voice, that's all you need to do.
Which is why if you see Jordan by Something Corporate is so amazing.
It comes back to if you see Jordan. It really is funny. It's right. It's write that song and then do whatever for the rest of the album. But you have to make sure you have that song on the album.
Yep.
Right. Is just have that piano track on there. You want to know what piano it really could is? It's in general, it's underused. Think of great like classic rock songs and stuff that use the piano. Like, I love piano can go into a lot of stuff. The Fratellis are a newer band that I really enjoy, and they use the piano a lot in their second and third albums, and you can make a fun, fast-paced rock song with just you can hear the guy like banging on the piano. Tessie from Dropkick Murphys uses a fantastic piano intro. And actually, I forgot to mention this year, 2001 was Dropkick released Sing Loud, Sing Proud. Yep. And that's really the current Dropkick Murphys that the world knows and loves. That was their third album. But a lot of the guys came onto the band. That's where they really jumped into an 8-piece set and released, their songs, like Good Rats, featuring Shane from the Pogues, but also like covers of like Wild Rover and Rocky Road to Dublin, like Irish classics. And that's really an album, if you go back and listen to, it's like, that's Dropkick Murphys coming into the world and kicking the door down. And, they didn't get really, really popular until shipping out to Boston when they actually hit the mainstream. But my goodness, Dan and I saw them St. Patrick's Day in Boston at the House of Blues right across the street from Fenway. And
with the mighty Bosstones.
With the Bosstones, who came out on stage to play shipping up to Boston during. But I mean, talk about that experience at the show, knowing that they're playing to their hometown crowd on St. Patrick's Day. I mean, what an experience. That's one of the concerts that I brag about to this day.
And it would be on St. Patrick's Day, because I'm actually convinced they only exist for a couple weeks of time.
Nope. I've also seen them awkwardly in November in like Syracuse at the War Memorial. So
no,
they do exist outside.
NoFX does their summer beer camp, and Dropkick Murphys are always on there. So I have bought a ticket to that summer beer camp twice now and not gone. But
I went to camp. That's where I saw Pennywise, was Camp Anarchy, in the middle of this weird field in just outside of Columbus, Ohio in 2019, for a NoFX festival.
Love it.
Is that gross? Why are you in Ohio?
Hey, I saw Regina Spektor in Ohio.
I know, just because of that.
Well, gentlemen, we made it through 2020, or no, 2001, not 2021. We are into 2021. We made it through 2001. I can't look at the numbers without mixing it up.
Speaking of 2021, Jeff, there's a great ska album that was released in 2021, so you should come back in 2021.
We Are the Union had a great album that came out this year. There's a good amount of ska that comes out. Kill Lincoln had a great album, or that might have actually been last year. But
I just love that Jeff Rosenstock released an album in 2020.
Jeff Rosenstock redid an entire
and
album.
then redid his album as a ska
Yep.
album. And,
And you want to know why? And I'll tell you, in the ska community, talk about a revival. Jeff Rosenstock has been a hero for 2021 in the ska community. It's incredible. Yeah, no, it's a good drop. And oh yeah, call me up in 20 years and we'll do it again.
We're talking 20 weeks, my friend.
Let me know and I'll be there.
We'll get sidetracked. We won't make it. It won't be 20 weeks.
So now, as we come to a close, Jeff, I appreciate you being here, my friend. Do you have any plugs, shout outs to share with the world?
No, man. No plugs. It was a great time doing this. Shout out for people that are enjoying it. For people like me, obviously happening upon it just through your own Facebook page, not knowing Joe and Greg before this, but really kind of getting to know, and you can get to know a lot of people through music. So I think this is a great outlet for someone that works at home. I can listen to it while I'm doing my job, and it's always a big thing that dials back to doing stuff just to do it, to have the conversations for the mental health and mental wellness of it. Being a listener and listening to this type of stuff, you don't realize that just being able to reminisce and hear about albums and checking stuff out that you hear about because people are passionate about stuff like this. It's having these simple, objective, subjective conversations, but look, no one got offended. So it's great for mental health, this type of thing. I really appreciate that you guys do this. So definitely keep it up. And, really, really happy you guys invited me to be a part of it.
Nobody got offended because there's no country music fans on.
Until we get Ellen in 2004.
That's fair.
This whole thing was birthed from Greg and I having a Friday night chat of like, why aren't we doing something like this? And then we got talking, here we are. And to be quite honest, I appreciate the praise because we've had quite a few people who stuck with us through the whole thing, but also others who've been like, I look forward to this during the week. It gets me over it. Like we have some factory workers who listen. We have some people putting away boxes at 3 a.m. and they tune into this stuff when we have it. So it's been a really kind of cool thing to just hear about the response from people and just to know that people are into it. So music, Jeff, music is my world.
Yeah, man.
I like a lot of obscure shit, a lot of stuff people don't like, and as do these gentlemen. And it's been a great ride. Having guests like you has just been amazing.
Thanks for having me.
Joseph, any plugs, my friend?
No, this is just you're listening to top tier YouTube exclusive content here. So just make sure you're hitting that like and subscribe buttons, comment, get the interactions up. So we let's just get one of these on the trending page. How insane would that be? So share it to thousands of people somehow.
We are up to full episode views at this point, so that is a big thing to begin with on YouTube. The trending of the entire channel has been incredible over the last 2 weeks. Gregory, what do you got for us, my friend?
I usually have my normal plugs, but if you guys have stuck with us, you've heard it all before. So if you're not following me, well, what the hell's wrong with you? But to piggyback off what Joe said, go ahead, create a bunch of dummy Twitter accounts. And share every episode. Spam the internet with us. Or if you don't want to spam the internet, which that's what the internet was invented for, it was actually a military institution, but of course that quickly became porn. But if you don't want to spam the internet with us, I am at Gregory-Dilcox on Venmo. So hit your boy up.
My man comes with plugs.
And one more thing to Jeff's point about just getting to know folks through music and stuff. I think one of my favorite parts about this show has been not just like the going through our songs, because it gives me an opportunity to think about and kind of reminisce when I put the list together, but hearing the other stories about concerts in random fields and festivals that people get a chance to go to, and especially because up until this point, we've all been at a time where I was not concert going age yet. So hearing other people talk about concerts up to this point is interesting for me, because I was, like I said, 12, 2001. So
I was high off my ass at freaking Warped Tour.
I'm sure I know this, Joe, but what was your first concert?
My first concert was one at the casino, I think.
Was it the Cochrane? Was that the one?
I think it might have been. Yeah, which was a great fucking show. Tom Cochran just puts on a great show.
Nice.
But
I knew it was around. I knew it was either one of those that casino summer, or it was when you went and saw. Was it Three Doors Down and
Breaking Benjamin and Stained and OZO opened for them. So
you're what, 13, 14?
yeah, so I wasn't too far off.
I'm feeling old. My first concert was Melissa Etheridge.
See, yeah, I didn't even go to my first concert until I was a senior in high school, and it was at Darien Lake. It was American Pearl was the opening band, then it was Days of the New, and yes, folks, it was Creed. Creed was the very first concert I went to. So all this Creed dropping, I'm like, oh man, I gotta drop this info at some point. But yeah, Creed at Darien Lake with Days of the New and American Pearl.
But wait, so you had Touch, Peel, and Stand, Days of the New, and My Own Prison, Creed.
Touch, Peel, and Stand live was one of the coolest live songs I've ever seen.
Yes, that's awesome.
They probably played other stuff. I don't remember any of it, but Touch, Peel, and Stand live was very cool. And my arms were wide open for the rest of the show.
If you're not counting local shows, not that we had a thriving local community, but I did hit up a couple local shows. Mine would have been Ozzy with Tea Party and some random punk band from Montreal who didn't play a single track as the opening band. So
I love Tea Party. So my shout out for the week is just to my wife. Happy anniversary. She lets me do all this shit every night of the week. I record, I think, 4 nights of the week at this point. I on top of working, on top of the comic book stuff. So
and
Lauren,
you pull
shout
shit
out,
like buy 11 comic books when she tells you not to buy 12.
it was 19 instead of 20.
Whatever, splitting the difference. You're pushing it.
But I greatly appreciate all the flexibility for all of this. I couldn't have made this channel happen. I wouldn't have had a chance to do any of this quarantine aside. So love you, appreciate you, thank you for all of that. We had a nice Schitt's Creek themed anniversary yesterday because I was doing this tonight. So she made time for me to do this tonight. So thank you, Lauren. And just support all of your local businesses that you possibly can. Take out whatever it is, buy gift cards for people. Just support them, man. Jeff, thank you as a special guest. Gentlemen, I will see you in 2002. We are just chugging along.
I
And
just keep wanting to do the in the year 2000 drop, so I'm kind of disappointed we're past it now.
we might have to
Although I
time
guess
travel
the
for
Conan
Christmas.
bit was they went way past the year 2000 with it.
So Jeff, we will see you in 2021 again in 2021.
Beautiful.
Thank you, my
Millington
friends.
also dropped an album in 2020. So
Millington is a good band. It's a good
Indeed.
band.
So, gentlemen, thank you. Battle of the Ballads continues. We move forward to more complicated lists, and appreciate you all. And I shall see you next week.
All right, thanks, Jeff. Bye, Dan.
bye.
See you guys.